Hi guys! I found a magical shout-out book a few days ago. It's really quite interesting. You see, I'll just flip to the back page and it's empty. But when I just say the words, Wazakazizi, Wazakazoo, these words appear. It says that on behalf of the magical community, it's time for a BKFK shout-out to GRAYSON. It's Grayson. Wow! Grayson, thank you for your support. We hope you enjoyed today's story as much as we did creating it.
Hello there, BKFK listeners. In today's episode, we are joined by...
My name's Shakma, and I am 10 years old. I am from Italy and England, half and half, but I live in Dubai.
Hi, my name's Arlie from Spokane, Washington. I like video games and dogs, and I'm 7 years old.
I'm Aurelia, and I'm 12 years old. I live in Dubai, but I'm from Italy and England, half and half.
Great to have you guys on the team. And now, let's get on with the story.
The smell of soup. There was once a woman named Natalia who was very poor. She would travel from village to village looking for ways to make a little bit of money to survive. Sometimes she didn't have enough money for food and a warm, safe place to sleep. People were mostly generous and kind and helped Natalia when they could. But there were a few people that were very nasty indeed. It was a cold winter's evening. Natalia had just arrived in a village called Burya-tia. It had been a long and hard walk since that morning. She was cold and tired. She reached into her bag for something to eat.
Oh, no.
She sighed.
All I have left is half a piece of stale old bread. At least it's better than no bread, I suppose. It will keep me alive and strong enough to keep going.
Could you blame Natalia for complaining? We all know we need food to survive, but we also sometimes eat for enjoyment and pleasure. She sat on a rock and began to nibble on the hard piece of bread. She closed her eyes as she chewed and chewed on the flavorless dry slice. But then she stopped chewing.
What's that smell?
She said. She raised her nose upwards with eyes still closed and smelled the air.
Oh, that smells delicious.
She sighed.
It smells delectable, scrumptious, yum delicious.
She stood up from her rock and dreamily followed the smell, sniffing the air as she walked. People looked up in surprise when they saw her passing. With her eyes half closed, her nose in the air, and a pleasant smile on her face. The smell got stronger and stronger. Soon she arrived at the source of the smell. It was coming from a restaurant. She saw people sitting inside, enjoying lovely warm meals. A man was going from table to table. He had a tall white hat, a long grey beard, a long pointy nose, and was wearing a neat white suit. He was the owner of the restaurant, named Mr. Kaputnik. As he walked, he spoke to his customers.
My dear sir, may I get you a bowl of soup? Madam, you look lovely this evening.
Would you delightful people like another plate of bread?
He smiled as he spoke, but there was something strange about his smile. He smiled with his mouth, but his eyes were not friendly at all. Natalia was again overwhelmed by the glorious smell wafting up her nostrils. She followed her nose and soon found where the smell was coming from. She looked through an open window of the restaurant. Just inside, she saw a warm fire crackling. And on the fire was a huge black cauldron. And inside the cauldron was the yummiest looking soup she had ever seen. She stretched her neck through the open window and closed her eyes to truly appreciate the delightful smell of the soup. She breathed in deeply and then heard a voice from close by.
Can I help you, madame?
Said Mr. Kaputnik, glaring at her down his long nose.
I was just admiring your delicious soup.
She replied. He looked her up and down. You could see by the sneer on his face that he was not impressed.
You are welcome to a bowl. It will only cost you 5 copper pieces.
A sad look came over her face. 5 copper pieces was not much for some people, but for her it was a fortune.
No, thank you, sir.
She said and turned to go.
I think not.
Sneered Mr. Kaputnik and laughed as he returned to his customers. Suddenly, an idea occurred to Natalia.
What if I could just catch some of the smell of that soup? My stale old piece of bread. At least it would make my meal a bit more bearable.
She returned to the window. She stretched her arm out with the dry bread in her hand and held it over the bubbling pot of soup. After a few moments, she pulled her hand back and bit into the bread. She closed her eyes and sighed with pleasure as she ate. Soon, she swallowed and reached out again. But a hand clamped tightly over her wrist to stop her. It was Mr. Kaputnik.
Thief!
He cried.
Thief! This woman is a thief. She is stealing my soup.
Please, I wasn't.
She protested.
I was just catching the smell of the soup.
What's the difference?
He barked.
That's just as bad.
He turned to the crowd that had gathered around him.
Police! Police! Someone call the police! This vicious and dangerous criminal needs to be locked up in jail.
Vicious? Dangerous? Jail? But I was...
Excuse me.
Came a loud voice.
Stand aside, stand aside.
The crowd parted to reveal a short, well-dressed man approaching. He had an exceptionally large moustache and a warm, friendly face. He was the village judge.
Now, what seems to be the problem?
He asked.
This woman is a filthy thief.
Said Mr. Kaputnik.
I caught her catching the smell of my soup in her bread.
I see.
Said the judge.
And what do you believe that we should do with her?
She should pay the price of a bowl of soup. 5 copper pieces. But of course, she hasn't got that much money. So throw her in prison. She's a dangerous thief.
5 copper pieces.
Said the judge, thoughtfully twirling the ends of his moustache. Then he reached into his pocket and took out his wallet. Then he slowly removed 5 coins and counted them in his hand.
Come here, please, Mr. Kaputnik.
Mr. Kaputnik's eyes lit up at the sight of the coins. He approached and held out his hand to receive the money. Said the judge, wagging his finger in the restaurant keeper's face. Kaputnik stopped with a puzzled look on his face. The judge then held his hand next to Kaputnik's ears and began to jingle the coins.
And now the fee is paid.
Said the judge with a mischievous twinkle in his eye.
What nonsense!
Spluttered Kaputnik.
What's this all about?
It was justice. The judge had made a fair decision. After all, the sound of money is a fair price for the smell of food.
Hey guys, if you like this episode, please share it with your friends and family. It is one of the best ways to support BKFK Storytime.